Thank you so much. You know, as a former motivational speaker, I don't like to stand behind a podium, so I'm standing up front so I can engage my audience. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for coming. I know many of you gotten off work and normally you head home and eat dinner, but thank you for stopping by and coming to share some time with us. And I'm going to be respectful of your time. I'm going to get to the points, hit them, then get out of here. So, and of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address any questions. So continue to eat and enjoy your meal. Let me first start off by kind of getting a feel of you. How many of you have heard of this Frederick Douglass Republican message before? How many of you have heard me speak before? So you have not heard me speak. You saw me in the runaway slave. Yes. Correct. Okay. And that's my cameo appearance, I guess you would say. So let me start from scratch and just share with you what this Frederick Douglass Republican message is all about, and then share with you who in the world was Frederick Douglass and why he is so key. Okay? And let me start by saying this. I am a conservative. But that is not how I define myself politically. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican or a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. And the reason why I do not use the word Republican the word conservative to identify myself politically, in the minority communities, the word conservative has a negative connotation. It means racist. If you call yourself a black conservative, a Tea Party conservative, a Christian conservative, a Reagan conservative, you might as well drop that last word conservative and call yourself a black racist, a Tea Party racist, a Christian racist, because we're losing the propaganda battle. We're losing the propaganda battle. And the reason why the word Republican has such a racist tinge, because you got to go back to the 1950s and 60s. And you remember the conservative Democrats who wrote the Jim Crow laws? They wrote the Black Code. They tried to block civil rights. Well, they didn't try to. Richard Russell out of Georgia tried to block the civil rights legislation. So when you say the word conservative, and you're talking to minorities, you need to define what you mean by the word conservative. Because if not, they're going to come up with their own definition of conservatism, and it's not what you think it is. They're going to go back to the 1950s and 60s. When you say you're conservative, okay, he's a racist. Because we live in the propaganda battle. Okay? So I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. So when I say that, it gives you a glimpse to what I believe in. I believe in the 4 life-empowering values of Douglass. Respect for the Constitution is one. Respect for life. I believe in limited government. In other words, I like to keep more of the money that I make. And I believe in personal responsibility. If a man or a woman doesn't work, they shouldn't eat. That's out of Thessalonians. So a Frederick Douglass Republican, to be a Frederick Douglass Republican is not based on color, it's based on values. Anybody can become a Frederick Douglass Republican or a Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. I say the word Liberty Messenger because when I talk to Tea Party groups, they have this nonpartisan bylaws in their organization. They don't want to favor Democrat or Republican, so I came up with Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. Okay? Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. And that's what we are. We're Liberty Messengers. Frederick Douglass is the key. He is the answer how we can take the life-empowering message of the conservative philosophy and share it with all Americans, especially minorities, and be successful. He's the answer. I can find no other. He's the answer. So, Frederick Douglass Republican, respect for the Constitution, respect for life, the belief in limited government, and the belief in personal responsibility. You probably sit there and say, well, those are conservative values. You're right. Frederick Douglass was the quintessential constitutional conservative and a self-proclaimed Republican. Self-proclaimed Republican. Let me get into Frederick Douglass a little bit. Frederick Douglass, born 1818 as a slave. Frederick Douglass, born 1818 as a slave. You can pass this around. He was homeschooled, self-taught. 0 days of schooling. Never been to school in his life. Never been to school. The man ends up writing 3 books before he passes away. This book here, he wrote 3 autobiographies. One of his autobiographies the first was called The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. That's what's in this book. His first autobiographies, and there's about 6 or 7 excerpts from his essays that he wrote. He never slept in the bed until he was 8 years old. Never wore a pair of shoes until age 10. Don't recall often when he met his mother. When Douglass was born, Douglass was immediately taken away from his mother. Immediately taken away. His mother worked and lived on a plantation that was 12 miles away from where Douglass was being brought up as a child. So in order for her to see her baby, she would work in the fields until dark, walk 12 miles, go see little Freddie, had to get up, walk 12 miles back before what? Daybreak. And Douglass said, I don't remember seeing her 4 times. But the times when I can recall seeing her, she always referred to me, Douglass said, as my little Valentine. That's why Frederick Douglass picked February 14th as his birthday, because he didn't know what day he was born. That's why he picked February 14th as his birthday. Let's fast forward a little bit. Douglass escaped from slavery in 1838 at the age of 20. He finally got fed up. Age 20, he escapes. Let me back up a little bit. Douglass knew the importance of an education. While a slave, Douglass learned how to read and write. While a slave. While on welfare, he learned how to read and write. Okay? What he did was, he knew how to read first, but he delayed his escape from slavery a year till he had mastered the village right. Because he realized, if I escape and I can't read or write, I'm going to be a slave wherever I go, even though I'm off the plantation. 90% of the black Americans at that time could not read or write. Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad, she could not read or write. Douglass started tutorial programs as a slave on the plantation, as a teenager, teaching others how to read and write. Douglass escaped from slavery, 1838. Douglass became involved in what was called the abolitionist movement. And that was the movement of people, predominantly white, who opposed and wanted to abolish slavery. Because at that time, like 4 million blacks were in slavery in the South. 4 million blacks. So Douglass joins the abolitionist movement. Douglass stayed politically active. Okay? Douglass soon, he became the face of the abolitionist movement. He was so articulate. When they asked him to speak one time, Douglass was so articulate they thought he was an imposter, that he'd never been a slave. They thought he was a phony. And Douglass said, okay, I'm gonna write a book. And in his book, he gave names, he gave addresses, he gave accounts to all the murders and the atrocities he saw on the plantation. When he wrote his first book, Douglass was a fugitive slave. He was a fugitive slave, meaning that he was an escaped slave, had obtained his freedom. If they caught him, they could put him back in slavery. He has the courage to write a book while he was a fugitive slave. Let's fast forward again a little bit. Douglass, when he got involved in the abolitionist movement, his mentor was a guy by the name of William Lloyd Garrison. William Lloyd Garrison was Douglass' mentor for a while. The reason why I say for a while, because Douglass broke away from Garrison for 3 reasons. William Lloyd Garrison and those in the abolitionist movement, they wanted to treat Douglass like he was a freak show. They said, Freddie, just talk about your slave experience. Just tell your story. Don't get up and be philosophical. Don't talk about policy. Don't talk about legislation. Don't comment on the war. Just talk, tell your story. They did not want Douglass to get his freedom, because it would take some of the marking away of having Douglass a runaway slave speaking versus Douglass a free man. So the marketing aspect, they felt to be tainted if Douglass had got his freedom. So Douglass said, no, I can't do that. The second reason why Douglass broke away from Garrison, and this is very important, here's the relationship between Frederick Douglass and the Republican Party. William Lloyd Garrison believed that the best way to end slavery was through moral exhortation, meaning that the more you speak about it, the more you talk about it, sooner or later folks don't change. Douglass said no. Douglass said the best way to end slavery is through political action. It was Frederick Douglass who declared political war on slavery. Here's what I mean by that. The Republican Party was started in 1854 by Charles Sumner. It had two major planks in its platform: to abolish slavery and to advance the civil rights of black Americans. Because remember now, the slave masters were Democrats. The Republican Party was started in 1854, Charles Sumner. 14 years before the Republican Party was started, Douglass was traveling the country, up north basically, talking about his experience as a slave and the need to abolish slavery. 14 years before the party was started. Douglass was the face of the abolitionist movement. Again, the party was started by Charles Sumner. Douglass was an advisor to Sumner. That's the relationship between Frederick Douglass and the Republican Party. And the Republican Party today does not resemble the party of Douglass's time. And one of the goals of our movement is to help the Republican Party today recapture its political distinction and reclaim its political distinction and once again become a vanguard of the Constitution.